Shalom, shalom. Welcome everyone once again to tonight's stream, d.c.b channel, Shabbat Night Talk. My name is Chief Levy, and I'm glad to have all of you here tonight with us. I just want a quick response. Can y'all hear me clearly out there? Just give me a one if you can hear me clearly out there. For everyone on Facebook Live, good to see you on tonight. Good to see everybody on YouTube on tonight. Share the links. Tonight is going to be an interesting show. We got the Rabbi Sholomo Ben Levy coming back on again with us tonight to continue in his talk on the history of Israelites Part 2. But before we get started with that, I just want to give glory to the Most High God, the supreme intellect of the universe, the host of our oath, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Hoping and praying that Yahweh be with us all, protect us and guide us, keep us, that Yahweh continues to be with this people in the diaspora, through the four corners of the earth, wherever we might be spread, that Yahweh will continue to bless us. Now, this is what I want. I want you all to give me a one if I sound clear. If I am clear on if I'm clear on the live stream on YouTube, give me a one if you hear me clearly. I just want to open up the window with the texting. All right, so everybody hear me clearly. Shalom, Deborah B, Gwendolyn Lewis, Shabbat Shalom, Letitia Stewart, Shabbat Shalom, Kaveri Kaskuya by Yisrael, Shabbat Shalom, Shania, Shabbat Shalom, Hebrew Sister, Shabbat Shalom, and Bathsheba Yisrael, Shabbat Shalom. So glad to have everybody on. Before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that we need to keep a few people in our prayers. We need to keep Ima Noreen in our prayers. She was going through a little ailment that is kind of getting worked out. I spoke to her, and she's getting better with some medicine and things of that nature. She's getting better. Also, Ima Muna's daughter, Selena, I believe is her name. We need to keep her in prayers also. She's going through some rough times right now, Ima Muna, with her daughter. So let's lift them up to the Most High and pray that the Most High God will be with them and be with her and heal her. That the Most High God be with Sister Beulah out in Chicago. The Most High God be with her and her children. And that the Most High God be with all of you that are here today joining us. It's a pleasure to have everybody here. So tonight, first and foremost, giving glory to the Most High God. That's the first thing. All right? Second of all, thanking the listening audience. We waiting for Rabbi Sholomo to come on. In the meanwhile, I'm going to begin to share this stuff all over the place. And if you need someone that needs prayer, just put it on the screen. Ima Sarah, Ima Yakolia, that the Most High God be with her, heal her. Shabbat Shalom to all the emote in the room, all the Ima, all the mothers, the fathers, everybody that's joining us tonight. Tonight should be interesting. I thank the Most High God for my life, the life of Kobeit Israel, waiting for Rabbi Sholomo at this time. So once he comes on, then we could get started. So in the meanwhile, I'm going to start sharing. On live. Exclamation. So I hope everybody enjoyed their Shabbat meal. Time with their family. Everybody's enjoying it. Thanking the Most High King for all of your lives. Tonight is going to be a PowerPoint. So even if you're on Facebook Live, you might want to get on our d.c.b YouTube channel so that you could catch the PowerPoint presentation that the rabbi and professor. I keep just saying rabbi, but he's a professor in college. So he is a rabbi and a professor. So just wanted to keep those things in mind. Let me see, is there anybody out there that we need praying for? Shalom, Sister Edna. Shabbat Shalom, Nahazion Yisrael, Marshia Yisrael, Ima Avared Yisrael, Shabbat Shalom, Ima Mataniel, Shabbat Shalom, Chef Tohora Benyamin, Shabbat Shalom, Bashua McKay, Shabbat Shalom, Hannah Miller, Shabbat Shalom, Asriel Naftali, Shabbat Shalom. So everybody that's joining us on Facebook Live can share that also. Give me a second here because this is what happens when you don't have, I kept saying this the other day, when you don't have any assistance and you're working alone. I really do need an assistant to get this stuff out there. Is there a way on Facebook that I could just create like a list of rooms that I just want, groups that I just want to share like stuff with, so I don't have to keep going to each group separately and sharing the posts one by one? I wonder if there's a way that you could put like a group of groups and put it out there, because this is really like tedious and it takes up a lot of time. But it's okay. Thanking the creator of heaven and earth for the Shabbat day. Thanking the creator. We take the Shabbat day for granted. And, well, not we, because we're here. But a lot of people take the Shabbat day for granted. And the reason why I'm saying that is Shabbat day is great because Shabbat Shalom Adam Ben Adam. The reason why I'm saying that is because imagine if us, as people who are knowledgeable, didn't have this day for us to wind down and for us to talk and for us to do what we do. And it would just be a constant rigmarole and keep going and keep going and keep going. That would be like disastrous. So we got to thank God for the Shabbat day. We got to thank the creator of heaven and earth for everything that he does for us. It's great. It's great that we have this day. I appreciate it. Sometimes when you're younger, you don't appreciate the Shabbat because you got all that energy and you just ready to keep going. But it's definitely a blessing in the long run. It's definitely a blessing. So appreciate this day. Appreciate all that it brings, the blessings that it brings, because in it, the Most High say, when he created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, he said he sanctified the Shabbat day, made it holy. He said, and not only did he make it holy, he blessed it. So, like I always say, since he blessed the day, and the day is blessed, then if we keep the day in his right perspective, then we will be blessed in the day. Those are things that we have to keep in mind also. Thank the Most High God for the Shabbat day and the blessing of the Shabbat day. The blessing of the Shabbat day, which a lot of us don't consider. Shabbat day is a blessing, and we will be blessed therein. So Todah Yah for that. Don't forget to share in all the groups. Get this out there. Share on your pages. Let people know what's going on. Should be interesting tonight. Really waiting for the rabbi to come on and finish up what he started. He said he has he went and got better equipment because he wanted it to come across, nice and clear, and so you could hear him nicely. So he's putting the effort to bring forth the history, as best as possible. So that has to be appreciated. Shalom, shalom to my brother Devon Sanders. Good to see you, my brother, from BK. So let me see here. Get over here. I'm waiting for. Let me shoot the rabbi a text to let him know that we're on, and that he could join us whenever he's ready. Let's see who else is in the room over here. All right, so tomorrow is going to be a real interesting portion. The portion that closes out the book of Genesis. It's going to be very interesting. I really like that portion because it gets the perspective of our father Yaakov. He starts to decipher his children and really tell them what they're going to be and where their position should be. For some of them, he acknowledged their anger and the things that they did that were not good. And the thing about that is that he acknowledged the goodness in some of his children, and he also acknowledged the bad in some of them. He understood his children, and those things are important because a lot of people do not acknowledge that. Don't acknowledge our faults or the faults in our loved ones. We defend them to the end. So that was important for him to see. Shabbat Shalom, Tamar. That was important for him to see. So tomorrow's portion definitely should be nice. Going to be done by our brother Chief Benjamin. So that should be a nice thing. The Haftarah portion is going to be done by Naya Yisrael. She's going to go over it, and that portion is Wakeyi. Wayeki. My bad. I'm tired. Wayeki. So that's for everybody out there. Let's see. Let me shoot the rabbi a text, let him know that we're on, so that he could come on with us. Tell him that I sent them the link already. All right. Rabbi Sholomo, we're on. We are on. And waiting for you. I sent the link. To your email. So hopefully he gets that. I'm also working on Rabbi Fune. He already agreed to come on, but I'm not sure if it's going to be on Friday night. So I'm going to get him maybe for a day during the week maybe a Thursday night. He said Saturday night, but I'm not sure about that. Also, just wanted to let y'all know that on January 22nd, the Israelite, the Israelite Rabbinic School here in New York City is graduating their first class in 16 years. That's also going to be streamed out live from my Uzi Alewi channel. It was requested by Rabbi Sholomo to know if it could be streamed. I told him, of course. Plus, my boy Chief Benjamin is going to be graduating. Him and brother Shalom, they're going to be graduating from the rabbinic school. So that's going to be a nice thing. I'm going to enjoy that. Go make some noise. I'm not a drinker, not really a drinker. I don't really drink. You know, I only drink on special occasions. So I think that's special enough to where I'm going to need a designated driver. I need a designated driver for that day. So I'm going to go have fun and drink a little. Mosai didn't tell us to be hermits. We drank wine and strong drink. So don't look at me like, oh, you drink. I don't really drink, but even if I didn't drink, I couldn't teach against not drinking. I could just tell you, be moderate in everything that you do and be careful, you know. So those are things that we keep in mind. So we're waiting for the rabbi at this moment. And in the meanwhile, at the same time, let me open up. Let me read a psalm. I want to get y'all more involved in the actions of the night, you know. Y'all just kind of let me do all the work. I need to get some people up to come read some psalms, to come do some. We got the rabbi on.
Yes, I'm want to check my mic.
Okay.
And let's see.
I hear you clear.
I want to see which mic. This is the one that I want.
All right.
And let's see. Because this mic has a jack that I could plug headphones into it.
Oh, okay.
And I'm wondering, does that mean I won't get the feedback where I hear myself coming out of my own speakers?
Right.
Or does just
make sure that you select the headphones that are associated with that microphone jack. Yeah, because if you have it that way, then you won't get the feedback. Definitely, you won't get the feedback.
Okay.
I'm not getting the feedback now, so you must be plugged in.
Okay, let's see. I'm talking now.
Turn your speakers up and see if it comes out through your speakers.
Yeah, I hear that. Now, if I turn my speakers down, right?
Can you hear it through the headphones?
You can still hear me now, right?
I can still hear you clearly. But can you hear me through the headphones?
I don't hear you through the headphones, but I.
All right. So what you
what
have to do is
I plug the. I hear myself.
Right.
But I could plug my headphones into the speaker. Okay, now you can still hear me, right?
I hear you clearly.
But you don't hear this, the feedback coming through the speakers.
Nope, I don't hear that.
All right, so we'll keep it like that.
That sounds good. You don't hear no feedback on my end, right?
No, sounds clear. And of course, this has a mic gain.
Okay.
And volume
control.
It has stereo, bidirectional.
So you good to go. You got good controls over there.
Okay.
So once again, we're here live from the d.c.b channel on YouTube, continuing in our history of Hebrew Israelites here in America. That's going to be conducted by Rabbi Sholomo Ben Levy, Professor Rabbi Sholomo Ben Levy, and he's going to be going through the history from our point of view, from the non-messianic, the Torah based Israelites, because that's the tree that a lot of us come from. So that's what we'll be learning today. He's picking up the conversation from where he left off last. If you didn't see it, I believe it was on December 23rd when he gave the first speech or the first lesson on this, and we're glad to have it. I just want to run down some for those of you that might have not heard him the first time, and at this time you might want to begin to share the links with everybody. So I'll give everyone a chance to do that if you want some people to see this. But Rabbi Sholomo Levy, son of the late Rabbi Levy Ben Levy, entered the Israelite Rabbinical Academy in 1981 at the age of 17. Part of his rabbinic studies were completed at Tel Aviv University in Israel. In 1985, Rabbi Sholomo graduated from the Israelite Academy and was ordained a rabbi at the age of 21. In 1986, Rabbi Sholomo received his bachelor's degree from Middlebury College in Vermont. He received a master's degree from Yale University in 1988, a master's in African American Studies. And that's interesting because I want to talk to you about that. We need to go through some African American history. That I have some stuff for you to do for the upcoming month, there, Rabbi. So I know that you probably be willing to do that. At the age of 24, Rabbi Sholomo became the spiritual leader of Congregation Beit Elohim, which is located in Saint Albans, New York. In 2005, Rabbi Levy received a master's degree in philosophy from Columbia University in American history. He is the president of the International Israelite Board of Rabbis. He is the editor of the website blackjews.org. In the 90s, Rabbi Levy taught college courses on American and African American history at LaGuardia Community College, at the Brooklyn campus of Long Island University, Medgar Evers College, and Middlebury College. He has been married since 1999 with his wife, Raya. From 2002 to 2005, Rabbi Levy worked at Harvard University in the W.E.B. Du Bois Institute of the Department of Afro-American Studies as an associate editor of African American Lives, 2004, and the African American National Biography, a 10-volume reference work. I want you to please give a warm welcome to our invited guest tonight, Rabbi Sholomo Levy. Rabbi, once again, it's a pleasure to have you and to be able to expound on this history and bring forth this history to our people, because sometimes, you know, we don't know where we come from, and we have all these ideas sometimes of where we come from, and sometimes we have how do you say, a romanticized history of things that happen, but we don't have the true facts and the true history. So I'm glad that you're here with us, sharing this information with us, so that we could see what branches we come from, what stock we come from, what trees we come from, you know, what root we came from, etc., etc. So I'm glad to have you here, Rabbi, and whenever you're ready, you could take over and do what you do.
Yes. Well, first, I'd like to thank you again for having me on this program. And I'd like to say to all your listening and viewing audience, to wish them all a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat. And in the spirit of the Shabbat, that we are having this conversation to educate our people and also to give glory to the Most High God.
Hallelujah.
Because it is a blessing for us to know the things that we have, to have a knowledge of our identity, and to have purpose as a people. And so what I want to do tonight is continue tracing our history from where we left off. And I'll do a quick review and bring us up to the period of the 1960s.
Absolutely.
And we'll go from the 1960s, hopefully to the present. But if we don't finish it, then we could do it again in a couple of weeks and go from there.
That's great.
But also about this technology, I would say that it is a tool. And like all tools, it could be used for good or it could be used for bad. And so we are learning to use the internet as a means of reaching out to our people, of educating our people, of communicating with each other. And so, although a lot of it is new to us, I'm just getting the hang of it. This week I have a better microphone.
Hallelujah, yeah.
And my next step and goal is to get the kind of camera that would allow me to do the video.
Okay.
So step by step, we're getting there.
Okay.
The Talmud says that all beginnings are difficult.
Okay.
And we're laying the foundation, but I think what you're doing here has a lot of potential, and it's just going to get better over time.
That's what we're planning to do. That to bring it out to the masses, and to have the people get an understanding of what it is that we do, and even an understanding of our differences. Because I think sometimes we shy away from that, and we're so afraid to talk about the things that we differ in, and the things that we actually, there are more things that we have in common than we have that we differ in. So, but that's a story for another day. So,
well, it's a story for tonight, because the rabbis of this generation, the first generation rabbis, they had differences.
Okay.
And how they resolved them, how they addressed some of the questions. We still connected. Let me see.
You know that your screen is being shared right now, right?
Oh, okay. I was just wondering because I couldn't hear for a moment. But you let me know.
No, because what happened is I put you on I put my mic on mute from time to time so that you don't, like, if I say something over here, it doesn't spill over into what you're doing. So
all right, so I'll continue then.
So if you hear that it's like blank, I'm not saying anything, it's because I have my mic on mute. But if you're on, you're actually on.
Okay, well that's wonderful. But we were talking about differences and similarities, and this is not new. If we can connect what has happened in our lifetime and use the Torah as a guide to our history and our ancient forefathers, we see that they started as 12 brothers. Israel started as a nation of 12 brothers, and there was not only differences, but strife and conflict between the brothers. But last week in the Torah by Yigash, those of you who have been following the Torah readings with us, Joseph told his brothers, I don't have any animosity towards you, even for the things that you did to me, specifically for trying to kill me, for selling me into slavery. So we have been selling our own people, our own brothers, into slavery from the time of Joseph. And so we see the story of Joseph going down into Egypt as a slave as the first captivity. And then the same thing would happen during the African transatlantic slave trade. Well, again, our own brothers sold us into slavery. And when Joseph says to his brothers, I understand this was all part of God's plan. So I don't hold you exclusively responsible. You should not have done that to me, but it was God's plan to get me to Egypt so that I could eventually preserve life. Right. So sometimes you don't understand why bad things happen to you in your life, or even why bad things happen to people as a group for a period of time. But Joseph understood when he was now governor of Egypt. The Torah says, Reuben said to him, Atakamo me Pharaoh, you are like Pharaoh, right? You are like the ruler of Egypt. And Joseph said, this was God's plan. He put me in this position so that I could preserve life, because from that position during the famine, he was distributing food. And you understand, I'm saving lives. Giving out food is saving lives. And God brought me this way by way of coming to Egypt first as a slave, then going to jail, and then making my rise up this way. So I say that to say that we understand what has happened to us as a people was part of God's plan, because he predicted in Deuteronomy 28, if you do not keep my laws, commandments, statutes, and judgments, you will go into captivity. You will go into slavery. So that was inevitable. But we are living in an age of prophecy now where we are being restored and returned. So with that, I'm going to go through this quickly because we went through it in more detail in the first program. But if there are any people joining us for the first time tonight, we started with the founders here in the United States. This person, Rabbi W. Matthew, is considered the builder, the founder. Most of the communities of Israelites throughout the United States trace their origin back to him in one way or another. And he started the first congregation in 1919 in Harlem, New York, called the Commandment Keepers Congregation. We are now in 2017, so we're looking forward to our centennial, 100 years of Israelites in the knowledge of themselves and what they built. He started a Rabbinical College for the training of Black rabbis. So myself, my father, most of the Black rabbis in America, not all of them, but if you meet a Black person who is a rabbi, the odds are that they received their rabbinical training through one of the students that came through the Rabbinical College that Rabbi Matthew started in 1925. His colleague and mentor was this person here, Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford. He was from Jamaica, from Barbados, rather. He spent some time in Jamaica, though, before coming to the United States. He was born in 1877, and he was part of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, sometimes better known as the Garvey movement. And if you just look at the contrast between these two photographs, you see that Rabbi Ford already was wearing a turban, right? He had the Star of David on his lapel, and he wore suits and ties, but also this kind of differences in dress. This didn't divide the men. They had different kind of approaches, different emphasis. Rabbi Ford was more Afrocentric even at that time, and would live out the rest of his life from 1930 until his death in 1935 in Ethiopia. So, but yet they were colleagues, right? The shmicha, the certificate of ordination that Rabbi Matthews received, was given to him by Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford, who went to Ethiopia to get those credentials certified. Both Ford and Matthew claimed that they had knowledge of the Israelite identity that stemmed back in their genealogy in an unbroken chain for many generations, going back to Africa and ultimately back to Israel through an oral tradition. So what we're going to see tonight is a kind of replay a little bit of these tensions between Rabbinic Judaism and what we might think of more Afrocentric or African expressions of Israelite peoplehood. Right? One thing that could be encouraging for us is that did not divide these two men. Right? They worked together, learned from each other, and discovered a proper balance between the two. And so if we go forward, Marcus Garvey, who's considered the modern father of Black nationalism generally, not just for Israelites, but for people of African descent. And they were prominent within that movement. Rabbi Ford was the musical director. So here you see, this famous photograph of Marcus Garvey in the convertible limousine during one of their parades down Fifth Avenue. Rabbi Ford conducted the band, the marching band. He wrote the music and the anthem that went along with the flag, the red, black, and green flag. So they were building a nation in exile. And their goal, even for Garvey, was eventually to establish a presence on the African continent. Both inside the organization and outside, he had his synagogue, Beth B'nai Avraham, in Harlem. Again, we went all through this last week. He was a musician. So again, talented musicians in the Israelite community. He was a violinist, bassist. He was part of the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s, the jazz age, with people like Duke Ellington and Willie the Lion Smith and Lionel Hampton and so many of the people of that period. And there were they weren't just alone. There were, a group of Israelites and Black Jews. This is Rabbi Mordecai Herman, who had a congregation called the Moorish Zionist Temple in the 1920s. You had Noble Drew Ali, who wasn't an Israelite. He was exploring kind of Islamic connections. And his movement would eventually become the Nation of Islam under Elijah Muhammad in Chicago. But this was a period when Black people as a whole were searching for their true identities, looking for alternatives to Christianity. Not only alternatives, but understanding that Christianity was a religion that was handed to them or imposed upon them by their slave masters and by missionaries colonizing Africa. And so they conducted their own studies of history and scripture and came to the realization that the foundation of all of these faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, lies with people of African descent. And so that was why they wanted to have an identity other than Negro, right? That was insufficient. All other groups of people have a history, they have a culture, they have a language, and they have their own religion. And any group of people that lacks any element of nationhood or identity would be considered culturally inferior. And so their whole critique and understanding of the nature of racism, which they all abhorred, but the reason they felt racism was so prevalent was not just because of economic or political dominance or because of racist laws, but the perception that the Negro was an inferior group of people. And so you not only had to change laws, you had to change perceptions. You had to change people's understanding of who we are. And so that's so different from the 1960s, where the focus was on changing laws. We have to end the discrimination laws. But changing people's understanding of who Black people are and what our contribution to human civilization has been was lacking. So during this period, they understood that, and they focused on that to a great deal. And for that, I just give you a list of scriptures. Hopefully you can see these on your screen here. But in Torah, in the words of the Hebrew prophets, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Zephaniah, Isaiah, particularly 11th chapter, 11th verse, describing the dispersal of the Jewish people. Now, this is important to explain how we got to be in the various places of the world that we are today, that the link between the ancestral Israelites and our African ancestors, particularly in Western and Southern Africa, is that through this process of dispersal. Now, just last week, we were at the screening of a new film called Doing Jewish in Ghana. And this was at Lincoln Center in New York. And I thought the film was very interesting in that it talked about yet another community of African people who were identifying their connection to the Israelites. And they said that their tribe, their group of people there in Ghana, parts of what we would normally consider to be the Ashanti tribe, that they believe that they are direct descendants of the ancient Israelites, and that their ancestors migrated to present-day Ghana many centuries ago, and that they had lost some knowledge of their beliefs and practices, but had always retained respect for the Sabbath day and customs and traditions relating to circumcision, and certain dietary laws. And now they want to reconnect to their ancestral past. So this, for us, is fulfillment of prophecy. This is what Isaiah said, that God will reach out and he would bring his people back. And when you experience a spiritual reawakening, and it's something in you that makes you feel drawn to these people, that when you read the Bible, even say as a Black Christian, that you feel somehow that this is talking about me and my ancestors and my people. That is how God wakes us up, and then we begin the process of returning. In terms of percentages, the scriptures tell us that of these 12 tribes, that 10 of them were lost during the Assyrian exile. So at that time, all the tribes were in the land of Israel, and then 10 of the tribes were lost, leaving mostly the tribe of Judah and Benjamin, which is why those who remain were often called Jews. Before that, if you wanted to refer to the whole nation, you would say Israel. But with the dispersal, those who remain were not only Israelites, they were primarily members of the tribe of Judah, so they would call them Jews. I should also point out, even in scripture, particularly in the book of Exodus, it gives the genealogy of Esther, a Hebrew name Hadassah. Her uncle Mordecai traces his genealogy, and so he knows that he is not of the tribe of Judah, but yet he describes himself as a Jew, even though he knows he's not of the tribe of Judah. Now, when I teach Torah and scripture, I use this to point out that even during the biblical period, Israelites were calling themselves Jews. So it is not, as some people incorrectly believe, a term invented by Europeans and only applying to Europeans, and that they were the first to call themselves Jews. In the Hebrew it says Yehudim, but still referring to Yehuda or Judah. But even in the book of Esther, during the Babylonian exile, that's where the book is set, these Israelites who were taken to Babylon as slaves in captivity, most of them were Jews, but of the tribe of Judah. But even those who weren't were already calling themselves Jews. So that's why, although I prefer the term Israelite because it's more biblically accurate and correct, I understand and permit the use of the term Jew as well. So I think also understanding that people who are looking for us and just coming into the knowledge of themselves are going to use the more common term. And then as they become more educated and as they become more familiar with themselves, they might want to use the more accurate term. Again, I'll continue, but I know I've raised some issues that people may have questions about. Here you see a latter picture from, I believe, around the 1950s or late 1940s. And here you see Rabbi Matthews at his congregation in Harlem, called Commandment Keepers Congregation, with a younger generation of rabbis around him. He's pretty young himself still, but the man you see over his over his right shoulder is Rabbi Yirmiyahu Yisrael. He will go on to establish a congregation, first in Manhattan, called Kahal, and then later a congregation in Brooklyn called B'nai Adat. that congregation is going to be very important to understanding what happens in the 1960s and the growth of Black nationalism. Now, when you look at this picture there, clean shaven, with the suit and tie, and the talit garb, it doesn't look like the origins of 1960s nationalism, but this is another kind of phase, just like the 1920s nationalism. You have 1960s revitalized interest in that. You have Rabbi Samuels over his left shoulder, will also start a congregation in Brooklyn that only lasted for a short period of time. Rabbi Smalls, Rabbi McLeod, and Brother Steele. And this is the beginnings of now the second generation. Rabbi Matthews will live until the 1970s, until 1973 when he would pass away. But this goes now 3-4 generations of Black rabbis in America. Here you see a picture now much later, maybe 20, 30 years later, and you can see Rabbi Matthews now as an older man with a long gray beard. And Brother Steele next to him is also now old and gray. I should do like, before, after, And you still see, this is Rabbi Moses over here. This is Rabbi Yehoshua Yohanatan, who would establish 2 synagogues, Beit Tefillah, first in Queens, New York, then in Mount Vernon. He would train and ordain several rabbis, one being Rabbi Kohen Netanya, who's currently in Ghana, was a student of Rabbi Yohanatan, Rabbi Stevens, Rabbi Woods, my father as a younger man, Rabbi Moses, Rabbi Chaim White. And this is the congregation, I'm estimating by the ages of the people there in the 1960s, so over 30 years. By this point, you see they have an ark of Torah scrolls, Sefer Torahs. You see that they have progressed much further in their understanding of Rabbinic Judaism. That they would, if you look on the lower right, you see a gentleman here. His name was Max. He was a white Jew who would visit them at Commandment Keepers. And so I think this is a good place to talk about race and our view of it. And what I want the listening audience to understand is, for our community, for our founders and our leaders, we always understood the distinction between being proud of who you are and where you come from, particularly your African and your Black origin, right? So we are proud of who we are, but we are not racist. Racism is, among other things, a concept of superiority. So with racism, you have white supremacy, right? We are not Black supremacists, right? We understand that the concept of race is foreign and European. If we were to use these notions of categorizing people by their complexion, then the biblical Israelites would fall into the Black category rather than the white category, simply because none of them had any European ancestry at that time. Our people, we believe, during the diaspora, really during the Greek and Roman period, much later, starting with Alexander the Great in the 4th century, we would have more contact with the West. And as our people, with the destruction of the temple in 70 AD and the diaspora and other forms of migration and the various theories about how Israelites might have moved west, would come to settle in different parts of Europe. And so there's that presence. But my central point was that we believe in being proud of who we are, but we don't believe in discriminating against other people or believe that we are superior because of our color. In fact, the Torah says it is because of the covenant that I made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right. This is the covenant that the Torah also talks about this week as we finish the book of Genesis. So if it were based on color, well, the Egyptians were also black. The Canaanites were black. Many of the other groups, the Amorites, the Philistines, the Jebusites, all of these people are not European people, so they all would have been considered black. So that is not what makes us unique. There were a lot of black people then and now. What makes us unique is the covenant that God made with us. And so when you see white visitors at the congregation, if anybody's wondering, well, how could that be that they allow white visitors to come in? We welcome anyone who wants to come worship with us, who respects our traditions and enjoys our service. They're welcome to come in. Our people have been the victims of racism. We should never be the perpetrators of racism against other people. As a matter of fact, one of the lessons that the Torah will give us, it will say, remember that you were slaves in Egypt. And so that kind of sympathy and empathy that you should have for other people, given your own experiences. So having been slaves, having been the victims of segregation and discrimination, we would never then do that to someone else. So so they had that balance, kind of a healthy respect for who they were. They felt then, and I feel now, that we have to talk about race in order for people who are still in darkness to make the connection. As long as they see Judaism as a white religion, they will never see themselves in that, to say that is my ancestry, that is who I am. They may have admiration, they may have respect and appreciation for Judaism, but if they see it as a white European religion, then it will seem foreign and alien to them. Once they understand that they too have this biblical connection, then they have a right to reclaim what is already part of their heritage. His students spread out not only from New York, which I've been focusing on, but here are three rabbis. Rabbi Reuben on the right, Rabbi Green, and Rabbi Lazarus. These were all students of Rabbi Matthews, who both came to New York, and Rabbi Matthews also went out to Chicago, and he trained black rabbis who started congregations there. He also had students who went to places in Ohio and in Philadelphia and throughout parts of New York. Our current chief rabbi, Capus Finney, is a student of Rabbi Reuben. And of course, my father ordained him. But he's part of that Chicago branch of the Israelite community that also traces its origin back to Rabbi Matthews. Rabbi Finney also points out that, as in New York, that Rabbi Matthews and his students weren't the only Israelites. As I said, we had Rabbi Herman and other groups in Harlem. You had other groups also in Chicago and other places. Here is a picture of Kahal Beth B'nai Yisrael in the 1940s. And the young man here in the center is Rabbi Halu Paris. And many of you listening tonight know who Rabbi Paris was. He was one of our leading scholars and teachers. But many of us knew him as an older man, even as an elderly man. But here you see him at his bar mitzvah at the age of 13. The rabbi who performed the bar mitzvah is Rabbi Yirmiyahu Yisrael here, who I showed you the picture earlier of him on the bima with Rabbi Matthews. And so before he started that congregation on Patchen and Green in Brooklyn, he had a congregation in Harlem called Kahal Beth Yisrael. I believe this is Rabbi Patiel, who will lead a congregation on the island of Barbados called the Zion House of Israel, which would be interesting, as we said, because Rabbi Ford was originally from Barbados, and eventually we would establish a presence in the Caribbean. It's probably also interesting to note that you have African Americans of both Caribbean and African American backgrounds mixing together in these congregations. So both Rabbi Ford and Rabbi Matthews are both born in the Caribbean, and many of the rabbis, Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Yohanatan, Rabbi White, my father, many of them were African Americans born in the United States. And so you have both, and we considered ourselves the same people who were dropped off on different ships. And actually, most African Americans came not directly from Africa, but were taken from various Caribbean islands and then brought from there to the United States. So that's also a piece of our heritage that we're proud of today, of the mix of Caribbean and African American roots in that. Here is Rabbi Patiel in the 1970s in front of his congregation that was built from the ground by Israelites, still standing there today, called the Zion House of Israel. I was there myself with my father for the dedication of the building, and I've been to it several times since on different occasions, although struggling at the current moment. But this is the Zion House of Israel in Barbados. And by the 1970s, again, you see Rabbi Matthews is a much older man, and the Israelite Board of Rabbis, which I'm the current president, being established. And so this kind of body of Black rabbis and what they were trying to do. The ordination. And this would be a good moment to pause and to make an announcement about an event that we're having next Sunday that we invite our listening audience to attend. And that is the ordination of 2 new rabbis, young Black rabbis. And I think I could bring up our website. Which has, if you can see this, if this is still live, from last month, we have Rabbi Fanei and Rabbi Baruch Yehuda at the White House with Michelle and Barack Obama during their Hanukkah party they were invited to. This was our convention last summer. This is the film that I alluded to earlier in the lecture tonight, Doing Jewish in Ghana, about our people coming into the knowledge of themselves in Ghana. Also, in other parts of Africa, Madagascar, this was a leader of an Israelite community in Madagascar who has recently come into their knowledge of themselves as Israelites. So this is a phenomenon occurring. The speaker next week is going to be this Cuban rabbi, Rabbi Roberto Vinas. He's an Orthodox Sephardic rabbi who is going to be talking about the Anusim. The Anusim means those who were forced. And so 1492 is not only the year that Christopher Columbus began his famous voyage now, but it is also the first year of the Spanish Inquisition, when Spain proclaimed itself to be a Christian country. The Moors of Africa have ruled Spain for many centuries. But in 1492, they wanted to purge Spain of all of its Jewish and Muslim influences. And Jews were given a choice. They could convert to Christianity, or they could be executed or expelled from the country. And so Rabbi Vinas will talk about these Anusim who converted out of force to Christianity, but many of them still tried to maintain their Jewish or Israelite identity secretly, and they would be called the conversos.
Hey, Rabbi, yeah, there's a group like that in and Brazil.
Yes.
In fact, they have a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel name is Anusim.
They are the Anusim.
Yeah, the Anusim, and they do the same prayers. They carry the same traditions. If you hear them do the Torah, I mean it's identical. Only thing is what the portion that you guys would do in English, they do it in Portuguese.
And Spanish, yeah.
Yeah, Spanish and Portuguese.
In Brazil, they would do it in Portuguese.
And Portuguese, yeah. In
Right.
Brazil, they do it in Portuguese.
Right.
But they go through the same. I mean, if you know the prayers in the prayer book that you guys do, you basically you could understand their form of Hebrew when they're reading and when they're singing the songs, and it's basically the same service, but
Right. That's what we're saying about differences. Right. There are always differences within Judaism and among Israelites.
right,
So even these, they would say that their Hebrew is a kind of Ladino,
right,
right?
right,
Which is a dialect of Spanish and the Hebrew. Even the way Sephardians speak Hebrew, in Israel, the Sephardic accent is considered the standard or normative Hebrew.
right,
The Ashkenazim, right, which are like the Germanic Jews of Europe, they are the majority, and they are the ruling power after the group, if you want to put it that way.
right,
And the problem with the Anusim is many of the Orthodox don't want to recognize them as returning or reclaiming their identities.
okay.
Right?
I want to ask you a question before we move forward,
Okay.
so that we could have some clarity with certain things. I don't know if you'd be able to answer this question, but if you could scroll back a little bit right there
Okay.
at the White House. So
Right.
there was an issue made about that I heard, the issue that was made about the rabbis taking the picture with the first family in front of a Christmas tree.
Right.
Would you care to elaborate on that, or do you have any information on how that happened, or if there was? I'm not sure if Rabbi Sholomo, Rabbi Fune, Chief Rabbi Fune or Rabbi Baruch spoke to you about it, but I mean I didn't notice it like that. I mean I noticed it, but I didn't put much thought to it. But
Right.
you know
I can show
there was
I can
big
show a
hoopla
little-
made about it.
Right. I can shed some light on it.
Okay.
Baruch kind of explains it in the article when you read it. Right?
Okay.
So this was a Hanukkah party, not a Christmas party.
Okay.
In another room, either the blue room or whichever room it was in, that's where the Hanukkah party took place. They had a Hanukkah menorah,
Right.
And they did the lighting, and there were maybe 300 people in that
Right.
room.
Right. Right.
And the president came out. They said the blessing, lit the candle.
Right.
Then they invited a smaller group of people and asked them if you would like to take a personal picture with Barack and Michelle. Then we will lead you to another area. So what you can't see in this picture, off to Baruch's right or Rabbi Finney's left, depending on the angle, there's a line of people waiting to take a picture. Right?
Okay.
So
it's like move along. All right, next. Come on, move along. Next, move along.
When you go, your choice is you want to take a president with the picture, well, get up and take a picture, or step off the line.
Or step off the line. Okay.
People who criticize said if I was there, I would have said, let's go to the Oval Office. Let's move over here to this and take a picture in front of the Hanukkah menorah.
Right.
Or, no, you're not in charge. You're in his house, the White House, and that's his decoration. So they didn't get to choose. But then what would you have done? I would say, I would take the picture.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted clarity on that because I was sure that it was something like that. I know, especially Rabbi Baruch. I know Rabbi Baruch, and I know that he wouldn't it wouldn't be something like they were jumping in front of a Christmas tree. Or I knew that it had to be something like, come on, move the line right along. Come on, take the picture, go.
Right.
Next family, go. Let's go, family. Next
Right.
go. Let's go.
Yeah.
So
So you get it looks like, but you got 1 second to get in there, out, next people come up, take their picture. And that's what they do with the photo shoot. I would say if there's any responsibility, the White House staff should have thought more about where they were going to do this.
right,
But you don't hold them responsible.
right. So yeah, I just wanted the clarity on that, and there was something else, but it'll come back to me. It would.
Right. I want to talk about Benjamin.
Oh yeah, my brother Chief Benjamin
Right.
is gonna be. I've been promoting this hard. January 22nd at Beit Shalom on Willoughby and
730
right. And Marcus Garvey right there, not too far from the corner. Brother Shalom and Brother Benjamin are gonna be made rabbis. They're gonna have their certificates. They're gonna go through the whole thing, and I believe it's the first time in New York City in 16 years that the rabbinical school is having any new
graduation,
graduates.
right?
Yeah, graduation, right.
It's certainly a big occasion. Black rabbis aren't made every day,
Right.
and this is the first 2 black rabbis, at least of the 21st century.
Okay.
And Benjamin, especially proud of him because he is the first person to complete rabbinical study from a group that goes back to Shema. And I'm not currently with Shema, but
Right.
Shema, we go ultimately, we finish tonight, we'll trace that back to our Shabbat,
Right.
and Shabbat back to Bnei Adah.
Right.
And so the point that we're at now, where regardless of your view about culture and dress,
Right.
that you could complete a rabbinic form of study,
Right.
right? And then you still teach. The important thing, when we look at these 2 pictures, the only thing that's significant from a Torah point of view is they're both wearing tzitzit,
Right.
right? So we shouldn't get hung up on the other garb.
Right.
I mean, you can wear whatever kind of shirt you want, whatever kind of pants you want, whatever kind of shoes you want, right? The Torah says this is the clothing that will identify you as an Israelite.
Right.
So what you look for is, does a person have tzitzit? If they have tzitzit with the blue thread, that means they're Israelite. The rest of it is up to you.
Rabbi, let me ask you another question. While we're here and we're opening up the lines and the communication, I always had this. I was intrigued by this, and I never understood it. And maybe you could shed some light on it. As far as all right, we wear kippah, right? You guys wear yarmulkes. Why is it that you guys wear yarmulke and not wear a kippah, something that would cover your entire head, rather than wearing like a yarmulke that it seems like it covers just a portion of your head?
Right. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to bring up some pictures here.
Okay.
I tried to select them in advance. Let's see. I'll scroll because it shows over time.
Right. Because you do understand that a lot of our people will say that definitely is not our tradition. If we covered our heads, we covered it completely,
Right.
or we had something that we put over our heads to cover it. So that I could, on that point, it would be more like that's more to the European rather than the culture of a Israelite, as we will say, or of a Hebrew.
Right. We would acknowledge that, right? That some of these cultural traditions are European in origin.
Right.
Some things are our interpretation of what Africa might be, right? I mean, he's first Ethiopian God, which would be different and distinct,
Okay.
right? And I just want to show you different changes in how Israelites address. These are some Egyptian wall temple paintings.
Right.
And the Torah said last week by Yigash in the Sidra
Right.
that Joseph's brothers did not recognize him.
Right.
And they didn't recognize him because he was just like an Egyptian.
Right.
Egyptians tended to be clean shaven,
Right.
whereas Israelites wore beards.
Right.
See, so here's a picture of Israelites, right?
Right.
And then you can see Egyptians. Now they have basically the same skin tone,
Right.
but they have different dress.
Right.
Some people wear beards, some people shave,
Right.
right? And I was looking for a picture of my father in African garb. I was selecting these, but you see. And here's my mother, right? Now she's an African garb.
Right.
Here's my sister, right? We have a mix. This is within my own family.
Right.
Here's my son,
Right.
and David,
Right.
right? And I'm going back to that period of the 60s that we were talking about.
Right.
Because that's when it became important again.
Right.
Going down. It was a factor in the 1920s,
Right.
in the 1930s. It
Right.
became important again in the 1960s. And not just important, but see, divisive.
Right.
Where if you wear that kind of head covering, I can't talk to you.
Right. Right. I mean that part of it, I don't agree with that. I know that there are differences, but my point of view always been this. My point of view always been that we're brothers. We're brothers and sisters regardless of whatever. My point always been this. I know I could go to your house and if I go to your house and you're saying a prayer, that I know that we're praying to the same God, and I don't have to worry about you putting some funny, strange prayer up, and then me feeling funny at the end of it,
Right.
And I could also sit down at your table and have a clean meal to eat.
Right. Now you look at our brothers from Madagascar.
Right.
People might disagree with their head covering. You see what I'm
Right.
talking about right here?
Right. I see it.
That's their impression of how they want to do it, right?
Right.
Here's in Ghana. I'll make this a little bigger, I think. This is kente with sisi.
Right.
So kente cloth is their traditional cloth,
Right.
right? And all they need to do is add some sisi to make it Israelite.
Right.
And as I said earlier, the only part that's important and based on Torah is the sisi.
Right.
The rest of this, you do whatever you want. How big, how wide, what material. I mean, the Torah does have laws of shatzat, of mixing fabrics, but other than that, but if this was a picture of Beth Shalom, the African garb.
Right.
I said I was selecting some of these before
Right.
that I didn't put. Here's some Israelites in Nigeria.
Can you make it a little bigger so I know
Yeah,
which one you're talking?
let's pick this one here. I'll go here. How about this? Okay. So they want to celebrate their Nigerian
Right.
patterns and fabric, which are different from those in Ghana, those in South Africa, those in the Abiyu diet, right?
Right.
But I wouldn't say, well, your garment is wrong, and the way you make your head covering, your kippah is wrong. I even put forth a proposal on developing a unique Israelite tsitsi.
Yeah, I seen that on the blackjews.org, from the blackjews.org website. But I'll go back to this point, Rabbi. I think what most people will say is, all right, we're looking at the Nigerians, we're looking at the people from Ghana, we're looking at people from different parts of Africa, but still they're still keeping an African centered tradition. If we adapt a European tradition or adapt something that's of European origin, then you know it's like you leave the door open to point the fingers or to have some type of objection. Why not just create something of our own rather than adapt something that they already have? You know,
Right.
what would you say to that?
I think we would agree, and to a large extent, right? There's a balance between being unique and expressing your own individuality,
Right.
and also having enough commonality with other people universal,
Right.
right? Um, so we're still in the process. I mean, again, here's Rabbi Baruch with the turban, much like Rabbi Ford.
Right.
And so where we are today is finding the right balance,
Right.
right? If you're so separatist and unique that you then can't become one people,
Right.
all of us together, then it becomes divisive.
Right.
And some of us, in trying to create culture, have borrowed from different things. So I would say, if you look at a picture like this, this is some of the elders. Mother points at there in the center, Eliyahu on the left, my mother on the right. They want to express a kind of African identity,
Right.
but they're drawing.
I know all those mothers, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, but the African cultures that they're drawing on are different. You know, so sometimes they may have kente cloth, they
Right.
may have cloth from other parts of Africa. African Americans who develop their own cultural style
Right.
is also uniquely African American.
Right.
Some of them are heavily influenced by Arabic garb,
Right.
right? None of them are probably the way ancient Israelites dress.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I
Our
agree.
interpretation is kind of, that, and they just put some CC on it.
Right. Now, I have some questions from the listening audience.
Sure.
Does anyone know if there is any existing congregation affiliated with Rabbi Ford in America today? If so, has the doctrine changed? I mean, I have the answer to that. I mean, basically, all the congregations that call themselves Black Jews are in a affiliation of Rabbi Ford. But I think maybe what they're looking for is, does his congregation still exist, which was Commandment Keeper?
Rabbi Ford is Beth B'nai Avraham.
Okay.
Rabbi Matthew is Commandment Keepers.
Commandment
Right.
keeper. Oh, okay, yeah, Rabbi
Yeah.
Ford. My bad.
Right. But now they're connected, right?
Right.
I showed you a picture of Rabbi Ford with the base
Right.
right in front of his congregation in Harlem.
Right.
And what happens in 1930, Emperor Haile Selassie becomes the emperor of Ethiopia.
Right.
And Ford decides, well, now is the time for us to go back to Africa,
Right.
which Garvey had talked about,
Right.
but never went. Garvey never went to Africa.
Right.
And he was planning with his ships maybe to go to Liberia
Right.
and West Africa. But Rabbi Ford was saying we have a biblical connection with Ethiopia.
Right.
So if we're going to go to Africa, we should go to Ethiopia.
Right.
And he interpreted the timing as being good because now Ethiopia was no longer be under any colonial influence
Right.
because they had repelled the Italians and Emperor Haile Selassie, who acknowledged his Israelite origin as the Lion of Judah, a descendant of King Solomon, the Queen of Sheba. And so he, with a small delegation, left Ethiopia in 1930. He performed at the coronation and then attempted to establish
Rabbi Ford
Rabbi Ford. Yeah, he
performed at the coronation of Emperor Haile Selassie.
at the coronation. Matter of fact, I have a picture of Haile Selassie in Paris. I was going to go to this one with Cohen Levy.
Right. I see it. Hold on. Let me. I see Cohen at the end right there. Yeah.
That's the actor Ossie Davis. You know, his wife Ruby Dee. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my father here at the end.
Right.
And as I said, they used to be very close. We lived together in Astoria, and they were like brothers.
Yeah. Can you explain that a little bit? That history, how that transpired, and how it developed. Because a lot of people don't know of that. Don't know of that history. I know we got up to a certain point, but we didn't develop the whole
right. I wasn't
the whole narrative.
About the 1960s in the split.
Right.
And then part of the split occurred with their generation.
Right.
So they got to the point where people wouldn't talk to each other anymore.
Right.
So my father and Cohen Levy used to be like brothers and very close. As a matter of fact, they have matching rings.
Oh wow.
You know, and I still wear mine. And one of Cohen Levy's sons has his.
Right.
You know. So these were a matching set made by the same jeweler. Right.
Wow.
So they were like brother rings.
Right. Right.
And then they had a division. And the division was mostly over culture.
Right.
Where Cohen Levy, well, if you wear suit and ties, this is European, this is Jewish, we should be Israelites in this way. And it became very divisive.
Right.
So we look back at that period and said it went too far.
Right.
Right. Now I was going to show you the picture of Haile Selassie.
Yeah, with Rabbi
Paris.
Rabbi Paris when he was a young boy.
Right. This one would be good. Maybe I'll keep this up here. Because this is Dr. Yosef Ben Yaakov.
Oh, that's who I wanted to talk about. Good thing that you brought that up.
Yeah. And next to him is Percy Sutton, who was the borough president of Manhattan, and he ran for mayor of New York before Dinkins.
Right. All right. About Dr. Joseph Ben Yaakov, right? Mm-hmm. Did he come from the rabbinical school that all these other rabbis came from? Did he graduate from there, or was?
Here you see him receiving an honorary degree, and he was the speaker at the graduation in 1977.
Okay.
The same one we're having next week.
So he was a speaker. So at that point, he was fully a full-fledged practicing Israelite.
Right. Well, he's Ethiopian. Right?
Yes, but you know that later he.
Right.
You know what he started this whole movement, or he was one of the people who started this whole movement, almost going against what what he was, as an Israelite, saying that everything started from Kemet and that,
which is not totally inconsistent, right? So Egypt is an older civilization than Israel is. The
right,
Torah tells us that,
right,
right? The Torah says the first Hebrew is Abraham
right,
in the book of Genesis.
right,
When Abraham visits Egypt the first time, it's
right,
already a great civilization.
right,
Right? We didn't build those pyramids and their
right,
cities.
right. I agree with that.
The Torah says, last week, Joseph says, I want all of you to come, only 70 of you.
Right,
See, we're not a nation of people. We're 70 people
right,
in a country of millions, right? And he said, I'm going to put you up in the area of Goshen
right,
because you are a keeper of sheep and flocks. Egyptians are farmers. Another bias, when you read the Torah, is Egyptians don't like Israelites.
right,
We can't even eat with them.
right,
And we look down on nomadic people
right,
who keep sheep and goats and herds
right,
as being less civilized, less advanced, right? And we settle in Goshen. So the pyramid, if you've been to Egypt, they're in not Gaza, but
Goshen.
not Goshen. No. That's what I said. They're not where the Israelites live,
Right,
and so we have that period. But I wanted to do this in a little more organized way. Let me see, because I have it on my website too.
okay. And I understand that point of reference, but then you have some people like my brother Avdil, who wrote a book, which the title flees me right now. When you look at Egypt, right, and you start speaking about civilization and where certain things come from, that Egypt, where he points at is Sumer, right? That Egypt got a lot of its stuff from Sumer, because Sumer was or Mesopotamia, that area that was the earliest civilization. And when you look at the walls of Kemet or Egypt, you see in their story of creation, Khnum, God Khnum, he's creating man on a potter's wheel. Now we all know through academia and through study that the potter's wheel or the wheel was created in Mesopotamia, which preceded Egypt. So his point of reference is, if the potter's wheel was created in Mesopotamia and Egypt has glyphs on the wall showing Khnum creating man on the potter's wheel, that certainly that concept did not start from Egypt, but it started from an early civilization, which was Mesopotamia, which was where our forefathers came from, and so forth and so on. So I don't know, what would you say about that?
Right. What I'll say about Dr. Ben
Right,
is he was always an Israelite.
right,
And I have a biography again. I'm bringing them up on my website
right,
for those that want to read. When he died, I did an obituary of him, and I describe his life here.
oh, okay,
And as I say, in latter years, Dr. Ben startled many of his supporters when he began to distinguish his ancestry as a Jew with his skepticism about the existence of God.
right. That's what he started to do.
Right.
That's what I was looking
At one point, he reached the conclusion in his own mind that God is not a reality.
Right,
Do not know whether this view grew out of his frustration of fighting religious battles for many decades, or from an academic position that demands logic according to human understanding and does not allow for faith, mystery, or the divine. Right? So,
right,
as an historian, he went in different directions. I was comfortable with recognizing and respecting our Egyptian identities,
right,
right? That we The Torah says we lived in Egypt for 430 years.
Right.
We intermarried with the Egyptians.
Absolutely, I agree
Joseph's
with that.
married an Egyptian,
Right.
right?
And I'm sure we had a lot more marriages after Joseph died.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, the Torah ends, the book of Genesis ends this week. It says when Joseph died, they embalmed him
Right.
like an Egyptian mummy,
Right.
right? So they were really integrated into Egyptian society. So that's why I didn't disagree with Dr. Ben saying that's part of, when we talk about Egypt, that's also part of our history.
Right.
And then whether you are a person of faith, and this could be whether you're Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, people who become atheists or agnostics,
Right.
right? And so that's a question really of belief.
Of belief. Right.
You could be born in Ethiopia, you're Israelite,
Right.
and then you could go through a period of questioning.
Right.
Dr. Martin Luther King, in his writing, talks about, as a Christian, going through a period of religious crisis, which says, I really don't even know if I believe in some of the stuff that I've been taught about the virgin birth and the resurrection and stuff.
Right.
So you have
I think everybody, when they get to a certain level and to a certain time in life, that we all have that struggle, but there's always something that brings us closer or brings us back to the reality of the Creator and his power and his brilliance over it all. There's always something that happens that just like something that happens that might shake your faith. There's always something that happens that strengthens your faith in the Creator and your trust in Him.
And that could be a topic for another discussion, where I talk about how you can be a person of faith and a person of science at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be great. I think that that'll be great. I wanted to also ask you. I wanted to go back a little bit to Rabbi Matthew. Okay. Rabbi Matthew was not looking to be accepted by his European counterparts, was he?
At some point, he tried to join the New York Board of Rabbis.
Right.
And they rejected his application.
Right.
And so this is one of the reasons why we started the Israelite Board of Rabbis.
Right.
Right. So this is just part of, segregation.
Right.
And why I said earlier in the talk tonight, we are not the racists.
Right.
We are proud of our race, but we don't discriminate against other people. Right. They have discriminated against us. Right. White Jews could always visit a black synagogue.
Right.
Nobody's going to kick you out. You can't come in here. You can't pray with us. Right.
Right.
But sometimes they weren't always welcome when they visit other places.
Right.
So we just created our own college, our own board, so that we didn't have to be dependent on other groups.
Right. So the school, the rabbinic school, came from basically from rejection, from trying to.
I would say part rejection, but also autonomy.
Okay.
Now we're at a point where any black person who wants to become a rabbi would have a choice. You can go to the Israelite Academy, but you could go to Yeshiva University, Hebrew Union College, Jewish Theological Seminary. Those options weren't available to black people 50 years ago.
Right.
Even 30 years ago. Right.
Right.
And so it's like historically black colleges. They came out of the 19th century when you didn't have the option to go to a white college because of segregation.
Right.
So now they continue to exist, even though you have people have choices, but you may just prefer the cultural environment at one of these campuses. You might feel more comfortable. It has a historical legacy. The curriculum might be a little bit different in terms you might be able to learn some things in the Israelite Academy that you can't learn in any other place.
Right. Now, what I would have a problem with is, and I hope you understand me on this one. Like, I wouldn't want to be around where I'm not wanted. So my point is, why would we try to seek or try to fit in where we're not wanted when we already have our own?
Right.
So to go and pursue to the pursuit of being a rabbi, in the midst of these Europeans. And I know, you spoke about racism, but it's difficult not to look at race when everything that they do, they look at it through the spectrum or through the glass of race. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not saying that, and because I've been on this channel and I've had discussion with the audience that comes on, and I tell them, I don't believe the white man is the devil. I don't go as far, but there are some Europeans, some Caucasians that do have, wicked tendencies. There's no better word to put it to, because we just got to look at the climate of what happened in the United States in the last few years, and the amount of people that get killed, without a cause. So I just, to me, I don't think that we should be seeking out their places, their yeshivas, or their places of study, especially when it comes to Torah, because we have our own. Our own has been established. We got schools. We got places of worship. So I don't think that we should be seeking their, how do you say it, their approval for us to validify something that we already are. You know what I'm saying? Right. I believe and I know in my heart that I'm an Israelite, seed and blood. That's something that no one could take away from me. So I don't know if I rambled along or I was all over the place, but I hope you understand.
No, well, that does really bring us to point Levy, what I have on the screen here now. Right? Because up until that point, I would say from the 1920s to the 1960s, for the first 40 years, all Israelites had this in common. They were black nationalists in the sense that they believed that the original Israelites were black, and they were proud of who they were today. Right. Now, once you go from that knowledge of knowing who my ancestral people are, you then have to answer the question, how do I actually practice my faith today? What is it that I do? Not what is it that I know? I know that I'm an Israelite. What am I supposed to do on Passover? What am I supposed to do on Yom Kippur? Right. So once you get into the practice, you have to say, I know I am historically, but we have lost all knowledge of our practices, except for a few things. Maybe circumcision survive, a few things. Some things we can figure out in Torah in terms of dietary laws, right? But they look to learning certain things from Europeans who still preserve this knowledge, particularly knowledge of the language, and post-biblical Judaism, right? In terms of when Israel ceased to be a nation, and even in Israel. So when the Romans come in and destroy the temple, we no longer have a priesthood. So this could have been the end of Judaism, or the Israelite people, right? And they figured out how to survive without a country, without a king, and without a priesthood. And that form is essentially Rabbinic Judaism, right? And so we learn certain things from them. And what the Talmud is, a record of opinions of what different communities and different scholars, that we will call rabbis, thought on subjects related to Torah and practice. There's not usually just one point of view. For instance, we just finished the holiday of Hanukkah,
Right.
right? One rabbi, Rabbi Shammai, says you should start lighting Hanukkah candles from the left. And Rabbi Hillel says you should start writing them from the right. Now, they ain't candles, but how you should light them becomes a question of debate.
Right.
And rabbis could be diametrically opposed, one saying the opposite of the other. So therefore, we could have different opinions. Rabbis in the Talmud have different opinions about almost everything.
Right.
In the end, people have said, well, I think Rabbi Hillel makes a better argument that we should start from the right because we read Hebrew from right to left. And, so I like his argument more than Hillel's, but that's an opinion. But we should not reject it simply because the person who said it or does it is white, right? And we should reject anything if it doesn't make sense. That would be my reason for why I reject this, reject that. Some things we know are European in origin, but they are good. Like we talked about the system of reading the Torah.
Right. I understand that. Yeah, I think that that's good.
Right. So if you fall into the trap of just being opposite, right? Then if I say this guy is up and you feel compelled to say it's down,
right?
Just because you got to be opposite,
right?
Right. So
as far I know that was part as we talking about Cohen Levy, and you have the picture of life and legacy of Cohen Levy Israel.
Right.
I spoke to an elder that was a part of Hashaba Yisrael from the inception, right? And I asked directly, what was the issue with Cohen Levy and I believe he was over at Beni Adat with Rabbi Yirmiyahu, right?
Right.
Rabbi Yirmiyahu was his teacher, and there was a group of them that started questioning certain things, as far as the mixing the meat with the dairy and with certain things. And what I gather was that Cohen had a problem with a lot of the halakhic traditions, as far as things like that, things that weren't really Torah, that were made almost to be Torah. And I think that that's where a lot of the issues come from, having two sinks, sometimes, having two refrigerators, things of that nature that us as Israelites, we grew up not really, well, we're all Israelites, but us in this segment of Israel grew up, those of us that come from that branch of Ben Azakin, which is Nasi Yaakov or Cohen Levy, we grew up looking at it and saying, like, that's not Torah. That's not what Torah said. That's halakhic tradition, and halakhic tradition doesn't supersede Torah.
Right.
Those are the arguments, and those are the points of contention that both communities, that both sides of the fence have. What will you say about that?
I would say, I think you're right about the factual differences over things like kashrut, dietary laws.
Right.
And even in our rabbinic view, we have a hierarchy.
Right.
So Torah is first.
Right.
Right. Even our Tanakh is divided in halves. You have Torah, you have the prophets, the Ketuvim, right, and the Navim, right, the prophets. But Torah is the highest of them. Then we would have Talmud or rabbinic teaching. And we feel we can differ or disagree with any rabbinic treaty.
Right.
But Torah we have to agree on. But you can't just interpret Torah alone because many things are not explained. So you have to have somebody to tell you. So it says you should write it upon the doorpost of your house, or bound it upon your arm and from between your eyes. there's no example of how those tefillin looked, right?
Right.
So when it comes to certain traditions, if Europeans have a tradition and it doesn't contradict Torah, and we feel that it's good, we might use it. A better example might be our Siddur, praying from a Siddur.
Right.
You've visited synagogues.
Right.
This is like an order of service.
Right.
It's words in Hebrew
Right.
and in English that's already written. There's some songs. Many of the prayers are actually excerpts from scripture,
Right.
mostly from the Psalms. Sometimes entire Psalms,
Right.
and then other times just portions. Right.
Right.
Some of it is just poetry. Some of it is just words of praise.
Right.
Right. And so we know that even those parts that are European, if it aids or assists me in prayer,
Right.
it is like a Hallmark card. When you give a person a birthday card, you're saying, although I purchased this card from the store, it expresses what I feel.
Right.
Right? I didn't have the words to say as beautiful as this, but this is what I feel. Right? And how you react to that depends on the giver.
Right.
So if your son or daughter gives you a card, you appreciate it because that person thought enough about you to give it.
Right.
You don't think about the person who actually wrote it, Hallmark guy.
Right.
Those words are as good as they came out of their mouth. So when I'm praying, these words become mine.
Right.
I'm expressing my feelings, my views, and David just gave me the words. I feel the same way, and I use his words or somebody else's words.
Right.
Now we can also write our own, which one would write his own songs, write prayers, and this was his point. And we agree with that even to this day.
Right.
And so that's why we see it was so unfortunate that they had to have that split.
Right.
You know, my congregation does not follow the separation of milk and meat
Okay.
views of kosher,
Okay.
right? Some do.
Some do. Okay.
Right. We have recently allowed women to come up for elite at the Torah, right?
Right.
Because the Torah has rules about cleanliness, uncleanliness,
Right.
you know. And so we say, if a woman is not in nidah, or she say post-menopause, but she's never nidah, right? Then there's no reason in Torah why she can't come up.
Right.
There are things that would exclude her at certain times. There are things that would exclude men who become unclean.
Right. And I agree with that. Right.
Contact with the dead.
Right.
Other type of things, right? And so if you're unclean, then you shouldn't come over to be. If you are clean, male or female, then you could perhaps. But these areas where we could disagree. If you don't, you're not violating any laws of Torah. If you do, as long as you're not violating laws of cleanliness, then this is where we can have tradition and we could agree to disagree.
Okay, I get that. You have
Oh, I know we're over our time again. What I'll say in conclusion is it's not just the issue, it's the times.
It's the times, right?
And see, the 1960s as a cultural moment was a time of militancy. It was a time of express black pride.
Right.
And I think that explains why the debates were so intense.
Intense, right.
Rather than the character of the people involved.
Right.
Right? So today we can talk about these things more rationally and, you know, without name calling.
Yeah, it's like a Monday morning quarterback. You know, you could look at the things that happened, you see the mistakes. Because I could definitely see where the black pride and nationalism came from, and also the animus against Europeans, because during that time, there was church bombings. There were, a lot of hatred towards black people during that time. The civil rights movement. You got the Voting Rights Act that was signed in 1965, where people in the South were still going through a lot of oppression, and they were being frightened away from voting. So these are all the things that our brothers and sisters are facing during this time. And you have you got polarizing figures like Malcolm X, and you got Dr. Martin Luther King and
Right.
Medgar Evers, and everyone that was in the civil rights movement, the Black Panthers. So people kind of took sides, and they added their own flavor to what they were seeing in those times.
Right.
And I understand that now, because I like to fancy myself an historian, and understanding the psychology of people, and I know you have a degree in a few things. So I'm sure that you do the same thing. You sit down and you examine the temperature of the time, and
Yeah.
what's going on.
Well, at the beginning, you read my bio,
Right.
and I think that extreme black nationalism has some negative consequences because it led to a rejection of everything white and white institutions, and that meant a rejection of school, study, libraries, right? We started to associate all that as being white, and staying away from that was keeping it real,
Right.
right? And that's a mistake because our people are the first scholars. We invented writing. The Egyptians invented paper, right?
Right.
Reading. The Torah is the first history book,
Right.
right? And I think for African Americans as a whole, not just Israelites, that associating whiteness with
Education.
education, right,
Yeah.
is detrimental,
Right. I agree with that.
right? And I'm happy that we're at the point now where we've reached a certain maturity in
Right.
our community.
Right.
Because we travel around a lot. And when you visit my congregation, nobody even looks twice about how you dress.
Right.
And when I come and I visit, you wear whatever you want. I know brothers and sisters who week to week change according to how they feel.
Right.
So this week they might have a dashiki, and the next week they might come with a suit.
Right.
And so I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. I think it opens up the dialogue. I'm really, I really just I want to have good dialogue, good conversation, regardless of how we I might look at things, you might look at things. I just want to have good dialogue in order to build and understand. Because for so long, one of the regrets that I have in my 27 years doing Torah, is that I never learned those prayers. Like, if I visit you guys, I don't know the prayers, so I can't repeat it. And I thought that even, and just hear me out, and I don't know if you understand me, I thought even if we had a sense of pride about us, that we should have been allowed to at least see each other and understand certain things about each other, so that way when we get to a Beit Elohim, or we go to a Beit Shalom, or to a Beni Adat, and they're saying these prayers, that we're not in the dark. So sometimes I go there, I try to follow along in the Hebrew, but it's a memorization thing. It's like you guys have it. You guys been doing it all your lives, or as long as you've been there. And that's what I'm. My goal is now to learn the prayers in the prayer book, right. and I'm trying to find somebody who will really put it on audio, and just go through it on audio for me, so that way I can learn it.
Right. And when you do, remove the impediment for feeling like I'm betraying part of my blackness.
Oh no. I'm not. I'm past that point, Rabbi Sholomo.
See, in
I'm
terms of
past.
prophecy, the way I look at European brothers, although you may have been oppressed in Europe,
Right.
if you didn't completely lose the knowledge of your identity and worship other gods and lose your language, then you cannot be the people who are returning. You are the remnant who survived, called Sharit, those who survived. We are the ones who were returning,
Right.
right? So that's how we meet the definition of those who are returning. And as we return, we have to reclaim what was ours. So we have to learn our language, obviously,
Right.
and to learn it from those who know it or who have it, and those who are willing to teach it, and those who do learn it to bring it back to others. So
Oh, but
that
Rabbi, I think we got the language. I think we got efficient Hebrew teachers within our communities. We don't need to run back to them for the language anymore. You got
well,
Mordei Mishael. You got a army of students that have learned the language and that could. I mean, you have a community in Israel right now in Dimona. I know those brothers over there. They speak fluent Hebrew.
sure.
You have communities of people. I mean, I don't think that we have to go to the European anymore for the language. I think we kind of have the language.
Wherever you go, right?
Right.
I mean, at one point that was more the case, maybe not as much now, but
Right.
whatever it is you want to learn, and then when you learn things just because it appeals to you. So take music, right?
Right.
You know how many Europeans visit our congregation and say,
Right.
I like the way y'all sing those songs.
Right.
People visit your congregation, I like those drums,
Right.
right? I want to buy a CD.
Right.
I want y'all to perform at a concert.
Right.
Same thing goes both ways. If there's a prayer that I like,
Right.
that touches my soul,
Oh yeah.
then I want to say that prayer.
Right. Right.
If
Right.
there's a prayer that melody just doesn't go with me,
Right.
right? The beat of it, the sound of it, then I don't want to say that one.
Right.
So we should be able to choose the things that appeal to us, that we like, and other people should be able to borrow things that they might pick up from us.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
See, but what we want to establish is that we don't come into Judaism as an empty vessel with nothing to contribute and nothing of our own origin. And neither do we want to be limited to say we can't partake of different customs from around the world that we like.
Right. Well, it's funny that you say that. I heard the Shema. I heard it in a salsa style, and I was chuckling when I heard it. I said, people are gonna twist it. They're gonna put it the way that they feel it and they hear it.
Right.
So that that's the beauty of it. So
And that's the part of the diversity. We're waiting for the rest of the world to catch up to us in that regard.
right.
Right? So I'm comfortable with the diversity, racial diversity, cultural diversity, right? I'm already there.
Right.
The other groups of people, the majority group, who are not comfortable with our diversity yet,
Right.
but we pray that day will come. Again, we went over our time because it's always so interesting and fascinating.
As always, Rabbi. Listen,
And
I want to get you to commit if you can. February is coming up, Black
Right.
History Month. Before 1960 something, you might know better than me. It used to be just Black History Week.
right.
So I want to know if you could commit to me to give me some presentations, not on the Shabbat, but during the days of the week, if you have time. I know you have a busy schedule. You're a professor, but I know that this is your expertise, Black African American studies. So
Right.
if you could give me like a series of like 4 lectures for 4 different weeks.
That is good. Yeah, and as I said, I'm getting better with my technology. This week I have a new mic, and hopefully it was much
Right.
better.
Right.
And hopefully by next month, I'll have a new camera.
Okay.
And then I'll have my home studio
Okay.
set up. We will be in New York next week. And
Right.
so I'll be looking forward to seeing you in person. And you should announce to your audience that you will be streaming the ceremony.
Yes, I announced that to them earlier, but since everyone is here, everyone online right now, if you have not subscribed to our d.c.b channel, just hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber, so that way you know every time we have these sort of interesting programs going on. To everybody on Facebook Live, just share the feed. Yes, on January 22nd, we will be streaming live from. Can you give them that address again, Rabbi?
730 Willoughby Avenue.
730 Willoughby Avenue. That is Beit Shalom. Beit Shalom. That's on Willoughby Avenue and Marcus Garvey.
Right.
So when you come out, it's free of charge. I believe it's from 1 p.m. until, right?
Yeah, it's about 5.
So about 5. They're going to be making some new rabbis, a graduating class. The first time in New York City in 16 years that a graduating class will be graduating. And that class consists of our brother Shalom and our brother Chief Benjamin. They will be getting their rabbinical certificates from the Israelite Board of Rabbis here in New York City. And I believe that the chief rabbi will be here also.
Rabbi will be there. I'll be there.
You'll be there.
You'll be there.
I'll be there. And I'm streaming it live on my Uziel Levy channel.
Amen.
This is not going to be on the d.c.b channel. It's going to be on the Uziel Levy channel. So go there right now. Uziel is spelled Uzziel. Levy is Lewi. You click on that. You go to that channel on YouTube. You subscribe to it. And when that ceremony is going on, you're automatically going to get the notification. You hit the little bell to show that you want an automatic notification, and you will be getting that notification as soon as we begin. So it's definitely going to be something nice. My brother Chief Benjamin, I've seen him go through it with the struggle of making it through, and the day is finally here. So I thank the Most High God for that. I thank the Most High God for Rabbi Professor. We keep forgetting that we don't forget, but we forget to put respect on your name. that you are a professor, and we thank you for your time, for your patience, for your understanding, and for beginning to bridge the the gap that we have between the communities and just dialogue. And a lot of people, they miss that point. That dialogue is the most important thing in order to build friendships and in order to move forward to a better future.
Well, I thank God for you, and I pray that He will bless the work of our hands, as it says in the 90th Psalm, and enabled us to be effective and use us as instruments of His will in bringing our people back. And I look forward to seeing you next week and being back on your program next month.
Oh, absolutely. And don't forget, I need those 4 weeks, Rabbi. I don't need them on Shabbat, but I just need you to maybe, talk about Jim Crow, maybe talk about the Reconstruction, what is it? The Reconstruction period.
Okay, we'll talk about something.
About something, yeah. All right.
Everyone, have a good Shabbat.
All right.
And Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom, shalom. Hallelujah. So shalom, everyone. Once again, everybody give a thanks to the rabbi. I hope that interview was to your liking. And the information to my people on Facebook Live, give me a second so I could set up the camera again to face me, because I'm so important. So camera has to face me. So what did y'all think about that? I don't know what's going on here. This thing it's giving me a hard time right now. I'm trying to make the screen smaller. Trying to escape. I'm trying to do all that stuff and nothing is happening here. Let me see. Give me 1 second. View. Exit full screen. Thank you. All right. Glad to have you back here. Thanking Rabbi Sholomo Ben Levy once again. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Enjoyed the presentation. Enjoyed what was brought forth. You know, it's never easy. You know, we're trying to build, and in trying to build, you know, there's going to be bumping heads. As you can see, I don't agree with everything that the rabbi that they grew up doing, but you know, I give my points. He knows what I stand for. I know what he stands for, but we talk like grown people. And I'm not trying to impose my points on him, but just trying to make it see it from my perspective. And at the end of it, you get a better understanding, and you get a better dialogue. Can you imagine if I was here telling them, you need to take that, take the yarmulke, that stuff is Jew. How long would that interview have been? How much information would we have gotten? It wouldn't have gotten us anywhere. So I'm just becoming older and wiser and going about doing things a little bit different, especially when it comes to our brothers and sisters. So just wanted everybody to know and know how I feel about certain things. Prayers certainly is prayers, you know. We've been reading, listen, people could talk, they could talk that talk, but I know that we've been reading out of the Phillips prayer books for years. The Phillips prayer books is the same prayer book that is the Stone Edition prayer book. They have all the same prayers for Shabbat and all the holy festivals. So, you know, we can't be hypocritical on one end of it, you know, and then on the other, you know, on one end we're accepting of certain traditions, but then on the other end oh no, that's Jewish. You gotta make up your mind. If we reading out of the prayer books, then what do you think that is? You know, what are you reading? So just trying to bring some understanding without like I said, 2017. I know this is not our 5777. Stop with the hollership and bring some scholarship. And the only way we're going to get scholarship is through communication, opening the doors, learning why it is that people do things. And you see, when I brought certain things to the rabbi, he agreed with me. You know, and now we get to find out, look, my congregation don't do the karoots, that, you know, dairy and meat thing. We don't do that. You know what I'm saying? You know, we don't do certain things. When I brought up the point about the yarmulke, he brought his perspective, but he knew that I didn't agree with that, because I had a follow-up question, but I don't have to scream at him and yell at him to let him know that I disagree. So these are things that we have to keep in mind, and how we conduct conversations, and how we conduct and when I see the rabbi, I'm going to hug him and say shalom to him, and we're going to be just great, and we're going to be able to work again together, because he knows and I know that that's how you build bridges. So it's growth, it's understanding. He's an excellent asset in our community, and I thank the Most High God for the life of Rabbi Sholomo, also professor of African American Studies. So I don't know if some of y'all want to call in and say something, or you felt like I wasn't good enough in the questions. And So, anybody? Anybody else who wants to say something? Because I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning. So if anybody wants to call in, please feel free to call in. Say a few words. Say what you got to say. If anybody feels like calling in at this moment, please feel free to call in. If not, then I'm going to. Now, as far as I agree with the, adding to the Torah, and I think he pretty much agreed with me when he said that the authority is the Torah. Hallelujah. I'm glad that you enjoyed. I know there's a lot of comments coming up here that I haven't caught up to. Shemuel Ben Yehuda writes, Ak, I don't know you, but I enjoy your work and positivity. Thank you, Shemuel Ben Yehuda. I know another Shemuel Ben Yehuda. I thought you were he, but definitely thank you for that. And thank you for everyone that agrees. Oh, D-Mac, that means a lot coming from you. I have watched you over and you're yelling that, you're screaming it at me. I have watched you over the years, and your growth and maturity is definitely showing. Thank you. blackjews.org. That's the website where you can find all the articles, and I think I think the last time that he was here, I think he just wanted to reiterate exactly what was it that he meant by Jew or by Jewish. I mean, I will still have a problem referring to myself as a Jew, but I do understand what he's saying when you look in the book of Esther and when it refers to Mordecai as a Jew. Yeah, it might say Yehudi there, right? And it's translated as Jew, but we know that everybody that lived in that southern kingdom was addressed to as a Jew. That was the nickname for the tribe of Judah. And since Benjamin was living in that region and part of Levi was living in that region, they were all addressed as Jews. So that's why he doesn't feel a way about using the terminology of the word Jew. So that's the reason for that. We use Israelite. We say Israelites. But he gave his explanation, and he's right in the explanation that he gave. If you look in the book of Esther, that's what it says. A lot of times when we read it, we don't like to say Jew because the English reads Jew, so we say Israelites. But the writing in the Hebrew, it says Yehudi. So you know what happened with the questions? I couldn't open up some of the questions. I tried to open it up on my phone, but me and the rabbi are going to have more dialogues. I'm going to try to get Rabbi Fune. I don't know if he'll do a Friday night. From what I gather, I think he likes resting on his Friday nights, or either he goes to his congregation on Friday night. So he wasn't pushing for Friday night too much. When I was pushing there, he was pushing for other days. So I gather that either he likes his rest or he opens up his congregation to bring in the Shabbat on Friday night, which is understandable if he doesn't want to do it Friday night. So about polygyny. All right. I know, Nahalia, you asked a question about do European Jews practice polygyny? No, they don't. Adaya Zara about Yehuda says she hates being late. You always late. The notification goes out. Are you a subscriber? Adaya, you got to make sure that you are a subscriber to the channel. For everyone that's on right now, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. That way you get the notifications from the beginning. All right, so if you're not a subscriber, subscribe right now. That way you get a notification as soon as you get on. All right, so that's for everybody. Can't find your number, but the discussion was wonderful and informative, especially for those of us not from the East. All right. Some of our people lust after the nations, go worrying after them. Let's call it what it is. You know, in some aspects, I don't. It's like I asked, when I reiterated it to the rabbi about, wanting to go after, about, that European, or trying to find that European, and he said that, the language and so forth and so on, and I rebutted, and I said, well, we got people that are proficient enough in the language to where we don't need it. But when he made the point about education and a higher education, he said what he felt is that what a lot of that 60s movement, what it did is made black people basically said they didn't need the education from these different institutions, and and we know that that's not true, because we send our children to school and we want them to get a higher education. The problem now, that's another issue where I wanted to get into it with him, but we're gonna have more discussions, because I was looking at a professor from Temple University by the name of, her name is Ama Amaza. I don't know if some of you guys have heard from her, and she has this whole presentation on homeschooling, home education for our children. Very powerful, very powerful lady. Soft spoken, but her words have a lot of power, and the thing. She's one of the professors in the black and the African studies at Temple University. So maybe I could get her one day. I don't know. I'm gonna call her number, and maybe she could do one of these PowerPoints. She could do that same PowerPoint on the profits of homeschooling for us as a people. So hopefully I could get her to do that. Of course, not on Shabbat. It'll be on a regular day, but I'm gonna give her a call and see if she comes and helps us out. So once again, thanking everybody for tuning in. Thanking everybody once again for the support. And I'd like to thank the creator of heaven and earth for my life, the life of all of you. Kobei Israel. May the Most High God bless you and keep you. May the Most High God continue to shine his light upon you and be gracious unto you. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Everybody have a fine sleep, and may the Most High God bless you all. Shalom, shalom.